Good morning, everyone. We're going to start our plenary session that's a group effort on inclusion in the Society for Freshwater Sciences. That means me, that means you, that means the people on the stage, that means the people that will be at our meeting next year that aren't even here yet. We titled this session, From a Ripple to a River, a confluence of diversity, equity, and inclusion in SFS. We want to invite people to learn about things that are going on. Again, we're representing a few things. We know that many people are involved in their workplaces, in the society. We want to gather the information together about some of our major efforts and initiatives and engage the rest of the society, you all and the rest of us, in conversation about how we can move these initiatives forward. So you'll hear from me. I'm just the MC, is what everyone decided I would be in this role. I'm going to then hand the podium to Checo, Colon-Gaud. When we go from a ripple to a river, I think we're all running in a river, and Checo and others really helped initiate many of the diversity and inclusion initiatives in the society. Then we'll hear from Arial Shogren and her journey in SFS as an instar and an emerge and in a leader now in this space. Then from Zanethia Barnett, who was on the Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Task Force and now chairs the Council of Underrepresented Voices. Then from Sally Entrekin, who is involved in one of the National Science Foundation funded BioLeaps programs, but Sally's going to tell you about that program in general and the 3 different current grants that currently involve SFS. Finally, we'll hear from Dan McGarvey, who is critical to our work in the Emerge program, and we're currently writing a renewal proposal. So Dan wants to let folks know what's planned for this next submission. Today's plenary was going to be delivered by Dr. Majeka Patricio-Sullivan, whose exuberant and productive life was cut short just a few days ago. And so I know that you join all of us in sending our condolences and wishes of peace to his family, his other friends, his other collaborators around the world who aren't with us today. We were able to stream this plenary just through a phone where his family and his collaborators at the Baruch Institute are gathering and with us today. We'll miss Majeka terribly from our freshwater family, and I think we should let everyone know that we're dedicated to help continue his work and support his students and postdocs as they continue not only his work, but what he would want is the work that they're going to be doing in the future. Majeka was a leader for a more inclusive society, meaning people with a small s, and societies with a big S, like SFS, and was very active in the Consortium of Aquatic Scientific Societies. He played leadership roles as the director of the Baruch Institute of Coastal Ecology and Forest Science. He was a professor in the Department of Forestry and Environmental Conservation at Clemson University. He did so much work for this society in chairing the SFS Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Task Force, which was approved by the Board of Directors in 2020. The plan was to create this task force that would be in place for 3 years to help provide a framework. And so I'll introduce what that framework looks like. Majeka was also very key in organizing an impactful event at the JASM meeting in 2022 called Exploring Race and Ethnicity in the Aquatic Sciences, which many of you participated in. The framework that was created by the JEDI task force is shown here, and I'd like you all to sort of have this vision and make sure that we have this up on the website if it's not already. I haven't checked. But the reason that the task force existed is that to help SFS articulate how it was going to achieve its vision that was already stated in our strategic plan of having a vibrant, inclusive, and diverse community dedicated to conducting and advancing science for the health and vitality of freshwater ecosystems and the services they provide. The way to do that is to have key programs such as InStars and Emerge, bringing people into the society, giving them community and network. These BioLeaps proposals that Sally Entrekin is going to talk about, the Council of Underrepresented Voices. All of these are underpinned by the critical work that we all do in our day-to-day lives of recruiting and retaining people coming into this field. In this case, hopefully from around the world and in communities we haven't even reached yet. Underpinned by effective communication in a website, incentives for participating and continuing to come back to this meeting, like having a great time and experience. Also, all these activities need to be integrated into the way we do business as a society. All of our structures like committees, all of our processes of how we make decisions. So this framework lays that out, and I think can give us a pictorial of how all of these activities interact and are connected to each other. But this work is going to take all of us, and this framework is useless unless we all adopt it and do what we can do to advance a welcoming environment and inclusive science. As stated in this, the task force framework, a JEDI-driven framework is ongoing. It's a work in progress. And in order to be successful and sustainable, responsibility for supporting and promoting future initiatives have to be shared across all levels of SFS, from individual actions to organizational leadership. So I'd like you to consider that today. Whatever we do as individuals really adds up, and what we do as an organization really matters. So we have 3 goals in this plenary this morning. One is just opening up lines of communication. As we push for a more inclusive society, both with a small s and a large s, we have to engage with each other. And the first things that we do are just having conversations. What are some of the challenges we have? What are your ideas? What are your experiences? Importantly, we use humility and respect when we interact with each other. Wow, you come from a different place, you have a different perspective. How do you do science? Also, how do you feel? How do you feel at this meeting? How do you feel where you work? Are you feeling affirmed? Do you feel included? Because the goal is that doing freshwater science feels great, and it feels great for everyone. That's the only way we're going to attack some of these problems that are facing communities and the world. The second goal, again, is just making those connections, the theme of these plenaries at the Philly meeting. Inclusion is a team sport. And I stole these slides probably from Checo and Arial, just showing, it's when we get together, when we share our ideas, that really is when inclusion happens. These connections are key, but I put National Science Foundation up there. This new funding that we're getting through the BioLeaps programs is really helping us do things that we haven't done before. NSF is funding the Emerge program. But SFS is really key to all of that. It's a central nexus in this network, our society. And the third is just sharing inspiration with each other. We're going to talk about programs that we're involved in, that we know about, but we know that there are lots of things that people are doing that are members of the society, whether it's for the society, whether it's in their workplace. And we need to be reminded that each of us can play a role, each of us can affect change. And I think Majeka's life and work is a shining example of that. And I would just ask for you all to recognize that at this time with a round of applause. Thank you. What a leader. We'll hear from our other speakers today. Another inspiring leader is Dr. Checo Colon-Gaud. He's Associate Dean in the Jack Averitt College of Graduate Studies and is professor in the Department of Biology at Georgia Southern University. As I said, this was Checo hasn't stopped at a ripple, but he was some of the start of the drops of water in the society. And so I'd like to invite Checo to the stage to start to talk to us about initiating some of these programs in SFS. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. How are you feeling? Oh, I gotta hear it. Yeah. That's right. For those I haven't met before, looking forward to meeting you. I am Checo Colon-Gaud, and I feel inspired to be here looking at family, because this is what the society has been for me for more than 20 years. My home, my family. And early in my experience as a member, I was given the opportunity and the platform to really be myself, really do things the way that I felt that I was included in the society. And by the inspiration of leadership, was asked if I could bring that to more people in the society. The society gave me a platform to really make this as special as it was to me to others. Those of you are probably familiar with how that happened for me with the inspiration of Judy Lee and the challenge of society to ask us to create what is now the InStars program. And the InStars program, I know has been meaningful not just for me because what it's done for my career, but it's really meaningful for me to see how the society looks today. I look around and I could probably see not just folks that are InStars right now. If you raise your hand if you're an InStar, you can see them around the crowd. But folks that contributed to the mission from InStars, as Amy said, being a team sports because it takes everybody. So if you ever received an email from me and I've asked you to review an InStars application, if I ask you to come to a workshop, if I ask you to go meet an InStars today, go talk to somebody at a poster, I thank you for making the program what it is today. More than 14 years ago, the society gave us a challenge in $960 to bring participants to the society with a goal of really diversifying the membership. We said challenge accepted. We brought 6 participants in the 2011 meeting at Providence, Rhode Island. I'm excited to see now that we funded more than 190 students as InStars, and 177 of them uniquely coming to the meeting for the first time. 177 of them in the last 14 years have come to the meeting at InStars for the first time. Some of them here today. That's amazing, I think, and that deserves a hand. What's even more impressive is that of that first cohort of 6 InStars, 2 of them are still members today. 2 of them still members of the society, contributing to the program and contributing to things that we do in the society. It's amazing to see that across those 14 years, many folks who were coming to the meeting as InStars returned to the program to volunteer as mentors. As inspiring as the experience was for them, to me it's more inspiring to see what they do for others. Some of them even here at this panel today. Some of them now playing an incredible role in the society leadership. Some of them a power and a force to what is now our Emerge program. To me, seeing that and seeing what the society provided us and giving me that platform really fills my heart to know that this is still my home, and I consider the society to be my home for many, many years to come. What I tell Instars is, if this is what it feels like for me, how can I make this feel the same way for you? How can we make the society a place where you could really be you, do the things the way you want to do them, and at the same time play a meaningful role in how the society moves forward? And that's what I've seen. That's why when we're here today and we see a group of more than 14, 15 Instars, mentors coming back, a society full of young fellows, a society full of the energy and inspiration that makes us more diverse, more inclusive, and more equitable. Now, I couldn't be more excited today to hand over the microphone to somebody that came to this program with that same inspiration and that same goal of really pushing forward and contributing to these programs. You'll hear from her what the experience might have been to be an Instar, go through a career, growing up in the society, being in the merch, being somebody positive to what we try to do in the society, and then bringing more students, colleagues, friends, more family to what we try to do today. My colleague and friend, Dr. Arial Shogren.
Hey y'all, I'm Dr. Arial Shogren. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Alabama, so roll tide. And like Checo was mentioning, I wanted to share a little bit about my experience starting in the society as an Instar and being able to contribute to the program as I've sort of literally grown up in the society and contributed through my career. So get ready for some awkward photos. So like many of us, I literally grew up in and around water. I'm from Madison, Wisconsin, which is a city surrounded by lakes and streams. And I loved science. So that middle picture is me in high school, so I was very cool, because that was me at science camp. But this was really something that I didn't necessarily view as a career option for me. I knew I loved it, but I sort of viewed science as something that was something for someone else, right? And it was not really until I had this formative research experience as a research technician with Dr. Emma Rosie, which is that picture on your right, where I was able to sort of understand what it was like to go to graduate school, to get some encouragement from some people who are really important in the field. You might recognize a bunch of folks in that photo, and to start to think about freshwater science as a career option for me. But while I was in college, I would go into a classroom and I wouldn't necessarily see people who looked like me or who had shared an experience like the one that I've had throughout my life. So it was really challenging to sort of view myself as this person who could contribute valuably to science, and to view myself as someone who could really be a scientist. So the thing that has been so important to me through the Instars program has been that it's been able to follow me through many of the life stages of a career. I think we've all know this lovely photo or lovely diagram of, a mayfly sort of through its life stages. And so what I want to share a little bit about today is how I've been able to engage with the Instars program and how it has really followed me throughout these stages of my career. I've ended as like a emerged adult mayfly because hopefully my career doesn't end there. Maybe post-tenure it'll look different. But so I started out as an undergraduate at Vassar College, which is a small liberal arts college in the Northeast. It's not a college that has graduate students. So I entered the Instars program to sort of get an experience about being a graduate student. And this really helped me during my transition from being an undergraduate to being a graduate student at the University of Notre Dame. So professionally, what this gave me was I looked into the room at the Instars orientation, and oh my gosh, it was the first time that I saw people who looked like me as people who were engaged in the society. It was also something that gave me lasting friendships. I'm still in communication with many of the folks who were either my mentor when I was an Instar or who were part of my Instars cohort. So that's me awkwardly at my first SFS poster on the left. But yeah, it was this really amazing experience that professionally gave me this immediate network and community that was so, so important for me to feel welcome and wanted within this society. And it was the first time that I really saw this diverse group of folks who were succeeding within science, and really was inspiring for me and really prepared me well to be a successful graduate student. When I was transitioning between being a graduate student and a postdoc, or even while I was a graduate student, I was able to return to the InSTARS program as an InSTARS graduate mentor, which was awesome. It finally felt like, oh my gosh, these are like the InSTARS mentees who I can kind of take under my wing and show this freshwater family that we all know and love so well. It was something that helped me expand my relationships within the society. Like being able to take an InSTARS mentee and drag them to someone that they wanted to meet was so fun. And just being able to build in that support and contribute to that was so rewarding. It was also a program that I think helped expose me to a lot of opportunities within science that I hadn't necessarily heard about. So it was a really important thing for getting an NSF postdoctoral fellowship, because I sort of knew about that program, and so that was a really, really important aspect of transitioning to a postdoc. And then personally, I think it's a really important thing to recognize that this type of representation is so, so important as it grows within the society. And it's really inspired me, and I hope others, to get involved with these diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts within and around the society. Because truly, representation matters, right? When you walk into a classroom, I don't know how many of you have had that experience of being the only woman, the only minority, but it's really startling when that happens. So having a welcome community can make all the difference. So, yeah. And now, oopsies, sorry, burying the lead here. When I was transitioning from a postdoc to an assistant professor, this was something that I finally felt like I was able to give back to SFS, as I've transitioned from just being a graduate mentor or just sort of person who is really engaged in the InSTARS program. And I've now been on the Emerge advisory board for a while. So that's helped me really feel like I was able to shape these programs that helped me literally grow up and develop my career throughout this, the last couple of years. Well, not couple of years, maybe like decade. But it's also helped me really think critically about how we can make science a more welcoming space, how I mentor my students, how I view how my role in a classroom or a lab environment, and also just really has, totally shifted how I view my role as both a mentor and mentee as well, because I'm still learning quite a lot. And personally, I think that that peer mentoring model of InSTARS is something that I hope that we can all accept and engage with. That is a really important aspect for developing our network throughout the different stages of your career. And I also think that these are relationships that I hope the InSTARS and Emerge folks who are in the room today, or alum, recognize that these are lasting relationships. I mean, I know that if I needed anything, I can give Checo a call. It's happened before, and these are things that follow you throughout these aspects of your career. But with that, I would love to introduce the next speaker, Dr. Zanethia Barnett, who is a research fisheries biologist at the U.S. Forest Service and has been a leader on the JEDI task force.
Good morning. I am Dr. Zanethia Barnett, and I am the chair. Let's see if you do this. Nope. Oops. Sorry. I'm pushing it. Oh, the green. Okay. I got it. Sorry. I am the chair of the Council of Underrepresented Voices. The council is composed of 10 members of SFS that are from 6 different countries. We came about from the JEDI task force, so the JEDI task force that Amy talked about some. was an initiative to make sure the society stayed just, equitable, diverse, and inclusive. And so Mejika had this, was very insightful with the thought that, you know, a lot of organizations have just a DEI committee and they do all the DEI work. But the thought is that no, the society should be doing the work, the entire society. So the Jedi Task Force is just a task force that was supposed to be around for 3 to 4 years, but all of our initiatives should be ingrained into the society. So if it's something about education, the education committee would be doing this. If it's something about the meeting committee would be doing this. But we wouldn't just have a separate group of people working on DEI because it's a goal that the society wants in itself. But he was also foresightful where he understood that, okay, we still may need some oversight to make sure that these initiatives are, and the society is still functioning after this committee dissolves in a just way, in an inclusive way, in an equitable way. And so that's where the Council of Underrepresented Voices comes in. So the purpose of the council is to provide a forum for representative members of underrepresented groups to convene and provide perspectives and guidance on SFS goals, operations, and initiatives. And so programs and initiatives that the society has planned, we get to see them and provide our perspectives to make sure that no groups are being excluded, to make sure that that there are diverse groups that are participating and that is equitable. We are a safe space where all ideas and opinions of the society are welcome and cherished. And so we open voices from everybody, anybody in the society to, you know, any issues, any new ideas, anything that, you know, we could do to make the society better, to bring it to the CUV. This is why we're here, to hear those voices and to try to make sure things are implemented within the society to capture your perspective. We also play a key role in the SFS path of diverse and inclusive society. So our responsibilities are to monitor and synthesize perspectives of SFS underrepresented members, suggest and develop programming around justice and equity around SFS, provide guidance and feedback on SFS initiatives, support and enhance recruitment efforts of underrepresented individuals, and develop ideas for increasing mentorship. So basically to keep this a diverse and equitable society. So I just told you all about what our goals, our initiatives, but what are we actually doing? So the council is fairly new. This is maybe the first time a lot of you all are hearing about the council. So we're just getting started, but some of the things that we're currently doing is reviewing society programs to provide input and ensure diversity, equity, inclusion is being met. So we have someone that sits on the board of directors to have a voice during board meetings to bring things back to the council so that we can make sure that initiatives are equitable and diverse and inclusive. We have someone sitting on the annual the annual meeting committee this year that will provide input on the annual meeting planning to ensure that the meeting is inclusive, to ensure that we have engaging things that represent all groups. We review applications, so we work with the Emerge and InStars program to make sure reviewing the applications of new members, to look over the program to make sure that even this program isn't excluding any groups by how the application may be worded or how they're getting the word out about the program. So just to make sure that all are welcome into the society. And then serving. We serve as a point of contact for members on DEI issues. So as I stated before, I'm the chair, but we have a poster outside that has all the members' faces on them, a contact email on there, but we're here for you. So we want to serve you, and so we want to hear from you. We want to hear about issues. We want to work. So we want to see and figure out ways to make this a more diverse and inclusive society. So some other things we're working on is a certificate of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So this is a DEI certificate that we are working to implement within the society. As many DEI certificates, the purpose is to create a community engaged in and aware of diversity, equity, and inclusion issues, and take part in making freshwater science a more equitable and inclusive field. So by completing the certificate, basically you're committing to a continual engagement of DEI initiatives. And so a lot of DEI certificates, there's a training you take, there's an online training, of course, and then you get a certificate. So that is not what we want this to be at all. So there will be training, so there'll be a number of different trainings that people can take, because you do need training before actually participating in DEI initiatives. But the purpose is to be engaged and to actually do DEI work. So the certificate is for you to work and not just train and know the knowledge, but not share the knowledge. And so we want engagement with underrepresented groups, maybe mentorship, doing presentations and, and working with maybe inner city youth, but doing stuff to engage and actually work to make the field diverse. And then we'll have an education and outreach section where you're doing education and outreach. So with the certificate, you would do two things in each of those groups: training, engagement, education, and outreach. And then you'll be able to receive their certificate. It will be a 2-year certificate, and then you would continue to do engagement to renew your certificate. And so this is something we're working on implementing. We are working with the board of directors to try to figure out the best way to house this, but this is something forthcoming, hopefully in the next few years for the society. So this slide should not be white because some of the texts are white, so some things are missing that you can't see. But we're also doing discussions and initiating discussions within the society. And some of those discussions have been around social safety. And so social safety is focused on the risk of physical, psychological, and emotional harm while conducting field research due to discrimination from the local community and or colleagues. And so this is a big issue for minority groups, depending on where you work and whose land you may be near and who wants you there or not. And so the one thing we've done so far is work with the Southeast chapter, and they actually had a social safety workshop at their first annual meeting this year. But we just want people to consider social safety as a risk. For those that may not ever have to experience social safety, the PI, to think about what folks in your lab are going through and to make sure that we are keeping folks safe and have tools in place to protect them if some of these instances occur. We're also working to help the society and members of the society overcome barriers. And so that means identifying barriers faced by marginal groups. That could be something simple as, coming from another country, and in order to get a job, it says a field job, you have to have a driver's license. How do I get a driver's license? I don't know how to, simple things like that often stop underrepresented folks from moving up in the field. So understanding what type of barriers that our members may be facing, and then providing resources to overcome some of those barriers. And so we will be developing a survey to try to understand what barriers people face so that we can provide the right resources that are needed by our members. And we hope to hear from you so that we can provide stuff that is actually beneficial to the society. And so this is, again, all of the members of the council. We represent 6 different countries, but there are a lot of groups that are still missing, that voices aren't heard. And so just for instance, we don't have any indigenous voices in the society. So we are welcoming people to join the society. We have applications that go out every October. It's a 3-year commitment to be on the society. But yeah, we welcome new members to join. We're happy to have voices of all heard, so that, I mean, even the 10 voices that are on there don't represent everybody that's in the society. So the more diversity that we have on the council, the better job we can do. And so I encourage those to apply, to join, to reach out to the council if any issues arise. We're here to help. And next, we'll have Dr. Sally Entrekin. She is the Associate Professor of Entomology at Virginia Tech University.
Good morning, everyone. I'm privileged to be here, and I wanted to start off with just, before I get into the wonkiness of the NSF world, it's a little early for that, I know. Let's see, thanks. Yeah, everyone loves this page, right? I want to just express how grateful I am for the opportunities that have been opened up by the leadership, much of it led by Majeka, to be able to actually do something useful that's making a difference. I am completely blown away by what the society has been able to accomplish in the last decade. It is spectacular, and I didn't realize just how spectacular until I started working with all of these other societies through this NSF BioLeaps program. SFS is a leader in changing the culture of societies, and it's amazing. So SFS gives so much of us this opportunity for change, and also a place to come and be in community and have some of the best interactions that we have throughout our professional and personal lives. One of my warmest memories, and I have so many from the 25+ meetings I've had here, is I hadn't met Majeka. We'd worked on a Bridges cluster together. It was a fantastic experience, cool paper. And then he introduced himself to me at one of the meetings. We were at a natural history museum having dinner, and his daughter was with him. He always brought one of his daughters to the meeting. And we sat down together and had a lovely conversation and just a really warm, scientific conversation with a 10-year-old, and I loved it. And then I served on the board of directors with him over the time of this incredible change, and I said nothing. I listened. He had the vision that I could never have, and was so grateful to be led and learn from him and the other leaders of SFS. So Amy and Majeka and Checo and Dan, everybody let me get involved in this leading culture change through professional societies of biology. They needed people. I wanted to work. So they put me to work, and there's still more work to do. And I want to describe both the opportunities that are available through the BioLeaps, and also to point out that there's more opportunities. There's still another year to submit, so this year and the next. So there's 3 BioLeaps that our society is woven into, and it seems a little bit complicated, but I think Amy's setup with the framework that Majeka came up with is extremely important to keep in mind. So you've got emergent instars, and then NSF infuses funding and programmatic work that others present and that are shared across societies to support these programs. So if you're going to get involved, it's going to put you into a big network of people working on this, and I think that that framework really organizes it so you can figure out where you need to or want to plug in. So I'm going to talk about these 3 BioLeaps programs. If anybody is associated with them, please feel free to stand up, and if you want to contribute anything, just please do. The CAS evolved. This was what Majeka was a co-PI on with Robin Kottner, and Robin sent me updated information that'll be available on our website. But what they're aiming to do with the leadership now of Nayela Sanchez and Rafa Fiello de Lima, I don't know if Rafa, are you here? Okay. Oh, and Nayela back there, yes. So you can see them, yes. This is a phenomenal program, and it's just getting launched into its implementation plan, where their goal is to change the culture, build community, and build infrastructure across all of the CAS community. That's the Consortium of Aquatic Societies. And Amy Marcarelli, are you here, Amy? She is our representative for SFS now, so she can also help plug you in and understand how to get more involved. But they have some very specific implementation plans already laid out. For the community building, there's going to be leadership training. There will be a network that you can feed into through CAS by getting involved with a policy fellowship. They will also have programs for facilitated conversations and inclusivity for the professionals, so that's going to be available through our society, and you can connect with other CAS societies. And they'll also have a strategic planning process through CAS. And this is really cool because we're also going to be working on our strategic plan, so there's a lot of opportunity there to engage with the larger aquatic sciences towards equity, inclusivity, and diversity. So that's Majeka's brainchild and lots of opportunities. The third BioLeaps is EcoDive, and Megan Forks, Megan Fork is here. Do you want to stand up, Megan? Go ahead. So Megan and her PIs are working on figuring out how to have the best meeting. Annual meetings are integral to all of our societies. How can they be more accessible to all, both from a geographic limitations and constraints to lifestyle constraints? So she's working on collecting data and then planning out and assessing different opportunities for a more inclusive society. So the long-term planning committee can and will, I'm sure, interact with Megan, and she will also send out some surveys so that the community, our community, can engage. Okay, and so this is just another description of the approach that they're going to use, and I'll let Megan, we'll send out more information after the meeting. And just to let you know that the timeline for this is coming up soon, so it should be probably right after, is it right after this meeting, Megan? You'll send out a survey and get some input from our society. The next few weeks, so check your email during the summer. Okay. And then the third one is the LEAPS. This is a planning grant, Realizing Inclusion in Societies for Environmental Biology. This was led by the Ecological Society of America, Adrian Sponberg, and I was the SFS representative on this 3-year project. And the plan was just to get our leaders trained up in how to be inclusive and open-minded and culturally aware. And so we participated in manners and sack nests. We had participated in fish bowls where we assessed our different societies, and we talked a lot. So we met on a quarterly basis, and it was a consortium of 6 different societies. So we build relationships. We tried to understand issues that could build synergies towards change. And I think leadership training definitely happened. Our partners are shown here. We are now writing an implementation proposal that's due in July, and the goal is to continue to work with Manners and SACNES very specifically to share mentors, to learn from one another as leaders towards training. And there's a lot of opportunity clearly here to engage with what Zanethia is doing, what Amy and Checo are doing, so we're all having these conversations so that we can continue to provide a stronger network of support towards these initiatives. So that will come up in, so I'm working on this. If you have any ideas that you want to implement, hey, I've got 3 more weeks to write the proposal, so let me know. Okay, so next I'd like to introduce Dr. Dan McGarvey, an associate professor at the Center for Environmental Studies, Virginia Commonwealth University. Dan.
All right, since the others have spoken a little bit about Majeka's vision and leadership, I'm going to go off script here and ad-lib a little bit and cover something else that I observed. If you didn't have the chance to know him, Mujeka was a cool dude. I first overlapped with him. I first became aware of him really serving on some society committee duty virtually during the COVID era. So I got my introduction to Mujeka via Zoom. And there were certain things that I noticed about him quickly. You know, he had this really graceful, composed way of speaking always. He was multilingual. I started looking up some of his program, and he had this history of having these really large, vibrant labs with these great graduate students, more than I think I could ever manage properly at once. He had this diverse portfolio of research funding, and it sort of began to occur to me, like, this is one of a handful of people that I've come across in my life that I just feel like I'm so in awe of, and I could learn so much from working with him. So it is a tragedy that I won't have more opportunity to do that. It's a tragedy for all of us. But I do know that he would be pleased to hear some of the things we're saying this morning. So back on track, I'm going to start off by asking you to engage me in a quick thought experiment. I'll try to make an important point at the end of this. But if you could take just a moment in your mind's eye, I don't want you to overthink this. I want a reflexive reaction. Try and think what kind of person comes into your mind. I'm going to give you a few prompts. Who do you see when I ask you to think of an elementary teacher, professional athlete, say a football or a basketball player, a folk singer, someone who is laboring or working as a field hand on a farm? And who do you think of when you think of a freshwater scientist? Is it the big green button? In truth, most of us probably don't think, when we get to the freshwater scientist prompt, of one of the faces that we see in this picture. This is our group picture from Crystal Waters. It's where we stayed last year in Brisbane before the annual meeting. It's a little eco-village outside of the city. And let me be the first one to sort of to cop to this. That's not what I see yet either in my mind's eye, not yet. But that is the goal. That is kind of where we need to all get to. Because our fellows, they're really smart, they're really perceptive, and they're eager to be here. They're paying a lot of attention, and they see who we have traditionally, chosen to be our elected leaders. They see what the history of our most revered awardees within the society are, and they have an intuition where they know that if deep down, if you all don't get to the point where you are just as likely to think that a freshwater scientist looks like one of them as it does, say, Amy Rosemond or Sally Entrekin or Dave or Sherry. And I wanted to be dramatic in calling out a few names, and I can't see anybody because of the harsh lights. But I think I saw Stan Gregory over there and Gary Lamberti. We need to get to the point where when we say freshwater scientist, the first thing that comes to mind could just as likely be one of these people as one of the names that I just mentioned, okay? We're taking some real steps towards getting there, and we have some really exciting ideas for the next stage of things. But first, I appreciate that Emerge is probably somewhat opaque to quite a few of you, so I'm going to try to give you just a few really granular details about what it actually is that we're doing in the program. This is the logic model. It's the sort of conceptual model of how we get to scientific integration. This was published very fortuitously a couple of years ago by Jennifer Ahern Dodson and some collaborators. They're running the ESA Seeds program, and the Seeds program has obviously been around a long time. It's done very well. And they had this moment where they were sort of reflecting on the program and what have they accomplished. And they did this paper where they took survey results and they said, they basically mapped out what is it that we're trying to achieve with the SEEDS participants. And they basically wanted to give them three things. They wanted to boost their self-efficacy. So we have to build self-confidence. We have to build agency in these people. They're trying to build science identity, sort of a culture and a network and a sense of self where these people are seeing themselves truly and authentically as scientists. And then a sense of shared values, and that one's really important, and that's the whole reason we're here at this conference together, right? We don't just do science to make a living and get a paycheck. We all believe that there is sort of a mission-driven reason for being in freshwater science, that it's important work, that there's a societal need for it. So that was perfect. That came out just in time. We built the original eMERGE proposal around that model. This is sort of the process that we use to try and increase scientific integration. We have 5 main activities. So we do a river trip to be sort of a kickoff bonding experience before the annual meeting each year. We bring in our new cohort, and this year we had a gorgeous trip, 75-degree sunny weather every day up on the Delaware River. We paddled down to the Delaware Water Gap, camped for a couple of nights. It was a really, really nice experience, but the new cohort of fellows gets a lot of time to mix it up with each other, get to know each other, become friends. We then come to the annual meeting, and as quite a few you have seen now, we're a big group, we're a big presence now at the annual meeting, and I'm gonna come back to that a little bit in a moment. In the fall, we will do a 3-day workshop live. We'll all fly out to usually one of the field stations, and we rotate that. And we'll do a 3-day workshop on working with neon data and sort of learning to run and gun with some R code. In the spring, we'll do another workshop, another 3-day workshop on visual communication, where we'll teach them some of the basics of graphic design, how to work with industry standard design software. And then throughout the year, we have monthly meetings with these online collaborative projects, and that accomplishes a whole sort of slew of important goals for us. It keeps people in touch with each other throughout the year. It gives them a common purpose to keep sort of making linear progress towards. It gives some of the more seasoned, older, or more experienced fellows a chance to sort of be in leadership roles with the group, et cetera. But that's how we make the sausage. And then you can kind of see the mapping there between they're redundantly color and numerically coded with little balls, that the 5 activities kind of map to each of those goals for scientific integration. And then we have an amazing partner, Strategic Valuations Incorporated, that is surveying the heck out of everything that we do. So our fellows, the new fellows, they took an entrance survey. They will take a survey before they leave the conference. They took a survey after the river trip. They'll take surveys during the workshops. They'll take exit survey. We're collecting a lot of data about what people have learned, and maybe more importantly, about how their feelings about this process change through time. All right, really granular. I'm going to show you one example, just so you have a clear sort of mental model of what we're trying to teach them. This is the lesson plan that we used at the first neon data workshop. So we did this one out at the Sevietta. And it was a 2-part thing. We started off looking at neon insect data. We mashed that up with the trait database that Laura Twartekleb published a couple of years ago. So we showed them how to pull the neon data, how to reform that from stacked data to matrix format, how to pair that with functional traits, to chunk that through a Gower distance matrix, and then once we have the distance matrix, we can actually get to this sort of ordination plot. And we were thinking about functional diversity. So we're also teaching them, there's these 3 measures of functional diversity. We can think about functional richness, and we can measure that as a convex hull, or the 2 or 3 dimensional space that encompasses all of those points. Each point in the ordination, by the way, is a species defined by its functional traits. We have functional evenness, so we measure that taking a page from graph theory. What is the minimum spanning tree, the length of it? So if you had to sort of walk amongst all the points in the graph and you couldn't have a recursive or walk back path anywhere in it, what is the shortest, the most efficient path you could take? And then what is the average distance of all those paths? That's a measure of evenness. And then functional divergence. So we go back to our convex hull, we find the centroid, or the center point of it. I think it's a little triangle in that plot. We measure the distance from each point to the centroid. We figure out what the average of those lengths are, and we draw a radius around that. We calculate the distance of each point to that average radius, and then we interpret divergence something like a least squares regression line. So the fellows are seeing all this for the first time. They're picking this up all the first time. I give them about our code that's about 50 to 60% done, and then we go from there and figure out how to get everything up and running. This particular workshop, we then matched that up with environmental flows. So we had a lesson on environmental flows, what they are, theoretically how they work, what we can infer from them. So they learned how to pull time series discharge data from NEON, how to actually then calculate some flow metrics from those time series. And then we looked at some correlations between some of the flow metrics and the measures of functional diversity. So hopefully I've impressed upon you that we're actually covering a lot of ground during the workshops. Everybody, us and them, are exhausted by the end of these. And obviously, let me make this point. We don't think that we can teach people, especially when they're seeing this stuff for the first time, to be masters of it inside of 3 days. That's ridiculous. The goal is quite different than that. We want the fellows to learn a lot, but really what we want them to do is take away kind of the seeds of the idea that at one point when they were sort of in the safe space environment, they were presented with this stuff, and it mostly made sense, and they had the chance to see that they can actually work with the data, that they can get the code to run, that they can get the result that they're trying to get. And so when they go back to school, maybe a year later or something like that, and they bump into this stuff again, it's not going to seem overwhelming. It's not going to seem unduly scary. They're going to have the presence and the agency to say, I figured this out once, I can figure it out again. And if need be, I have a long list of contacts that I can reach out to sort of help me muddle through this. So it's sort of trying to steel them for what's going to be coming down the road, presumably a little bit later on. And then for the visual communication workshops, I was so tickled when Stuart showed during his talk the other morning the original graph from the paper that he did with Angela Arthington. And that original environmental flows diagram, like that thing launched 1,000 ships. That was a great graphic, but environmental flows is sort of coming into its own, thanks in no small part to the work that Leroy has done. And it's becoming sort of a public presence. A much broader audience is starting to think about these concepts. And so as we segue into that kind of audience, we're probably a little bit better off with some of these visuals having been slightly modernized, something that might actually look like it fits in Scientific American or something like that. There's a lot of power, especially in the digital era, in our fellows kind of knowing, well, first of all, understanding that oftentimes gaining and holding an audience is the first and ostensibly most important thing that we have to do. And then for them to feel like they actually have some kind of premium skills to be able to work in this realm. So here are two pictures, or two versions of the posters that we built at this last workshop. So again, it's 3 days of them working with a program called Inkscape. It's the open source alternative to Adobe Illustrator. They come pretty far, okay? They learn about color theory and typography and how to use sort of the Bezier curve pen tool and this sort of thing. How to work interchangeably with all other sorts of graphic formats, get those things into and out of their projects and their compositions. They learn a lot. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so Emerge 2.0. I'll be done within 5 minutes here. So we're a big group. You all know that. I think maybe we're a little bit surprised at how quickly we've grown. But between Instars, Emerge, Doris Duke, we actually did a back-of-the-envelope calculation, and we're pretty sure we're somewhere between 8 and 9% of all the people at this meeting this year. Okay, and that's incredible, all right? And that's... That is, the first most important goal that we really kind of had to accomplish, and thanks to Checo and Tina and Instars and getting the ball rolling on this, and to NSF for like really helping us sort of level up with Emerge. We've answered a very important question. As scientists, we have the data now that we know that if there are good opportunities within the field of freshwater science, there are absolutely a lot of underrepresented young people that want to be part of freshwater science. And I don't think we could honestly say that we knew that 10 years ago. We know that now, okay? And so that's a really important piece of information. But I'm pretty tuned into things. I'm pretty sensitive to sort of what I hear and perceive, and I think we might have gotten to a point where emerge has become so big within SFS that we now are bumping up against the unfortunate possibility that emerge could become sort of an other within the society. And friends and colleagues, we cannot let that happen, okay? That would completely defeat the purpose of doing these sorts of things. Emerge and Instars and Doris Duke, they're not about creating an alternate SFS for underrepresented people. They're about creating an SFS for everybody all at once, okay? So we think that the way that we can kind of move the needle on this, we are really excited and have a lot of anxiety about turning this next grant in, but I think it'll work out okay if things go according to plan. We're going to basically be dipping into social science theory, specifically intergroup contact theory. And this is a body of work that it was sort of the guiding force for when schools have historically tried to integrate in this country. The military relies on this heavily to create effective functional units from very different types of people. There's all sorts of sectors of society that have looked at this, and the wonderful thing is it's led to this robust body of research where people have pinned down, like, there are really specific conditions that have to be in place for these types of experiments to work well. And I was going to geek out with the rest of my time talking about how SFS fulfills those conditions. I had an epiphany last night that was not a good use of the time. I'll be happy to talk about anybody with it. It's in the proposal. Instead, it was just going to be better to actually show you what our fellows are actually up to at the annual meeting. And this wasn't hard to do because we use WhatsApp. We use real-time chat. They're in contact with each other in real time, 24/7 throughout the meeting. They upload several hundred pictures of what they're doing to the chat. So I just had to go in and pull a few of them. You know, we're at the top of the Rocky Stairs here. We have some pictures from the orientation session. I think that's like Stella and Nick sort of leading one of the groups there. We've got a picture of Jason's leading a workshop to design business cards, and thanks to a generous donation from Emma and Steve, we actually had funds to go ahead and print those. Let's see, we got Sam, Jonathan, Alexandra, and Jordan about to lay waste to some Philly cheesesteaks there. Champagne and Cameron at the poster session, you know, night out on the town. This sort of thing is going on all the time during the meeting for the Emerge Fellows. I am probably not out of line to say that the people that have more fun at this meeting than anybody else are the Emerge Fellows, okay? But they're learning a lot too, and the one picture that I really wanted to show you that I couldn't find, we have lots of pictures of them taking pictures of each other presenting, but what I really wanted to find was a picture of one of the presenters showing, there's my 10 Emerge people sitting in the front while I'm giving my presentation. They come and they support each other and they do practice together and they make sure that even if they feel like they didn't deliver the greatest presentation of their life, it's probably their first presentation for most of them, that they're going to feel really good about it by the time it's over, okay? I'm going to read you something real quick, and then I'm going to wrap it up. This is a quote from it's an anonymous quote from one of our fellows from the meeting last year during the survey. The meeting exceeded my expectations when it comes to my peers. I found a sense of community that was really well built up. It's usually difficult for me to find friends and find people to hang out with, but my cohort makes it easy. We all look out for one another, we share, and when we need anything, we come together. From borrowing chargers to people letting me use their laptop to submit a job application and try to fix my resume, to bring food for one another when we got sick, we all come together, the support network is there. We run around, we get super sweaty to see each other's talks, we show up, we take pictures of one another. It has been amazing. So Emerge 2, if this falls into place, is going to be really simple. We don't see any reason that we shouldn't invite every student that comes to this meeting basically to be a part of the Emerge experience, okay? We know we have a really good product. We built a wonderful family. I don't think there's any of us, no matter what career stage we're at, that would look back and say, you know, I don't think that I would have actually benefited from an environment like that the first time I came to this meeting. And this goes hand in hand with the social science theory and stuff. You know, the time in most people's lives and most people's careers when they're going to be the most plastic and the most amenable to really sort of bonding with other groups, people that they wouldn't normally mix things up with, is when they're young. So we're really not proposing something radically different than what we're already doing. We just sort of had that aha moment where we realized actually it makes a lot of sense to just sort of, if we want people to understand what eMERGE is and how wonderful the eMERGE Fellows are, let's just actually put them with the eMERGE Fellows. So we have a lot of logistics to try and figure out how that's going to work, et cetera, but we are very excited about what we might accomplish with that kind of plan. I don't really need to walk through the slide. This is our group photo, of course, out in front of the love sign. What do I have down there? SFS has come a long way in a short period of time. Our best days are still on the horizon, but within our grasp. I hope that when you go home shortly, you will feel deeply proud of how far this society has come. And I hope that you will feel really excited that you get to be a part of what comes next.
Thank you, Dan. Thank goodness we have until July 1st to get that proposal sent to SFS, NSF. The purpose is, again, with these plenaries to make connections, and we want to invite your questions, and again, because we only have a few minutes before we're going to the talks, we want you to engage with each other in the hallways, after the meeting, et cetera. I do want to give a special shout out to Majeka's wife, Gabriella, or Gabby. Their 4 kids, their eldest daughter that Sally had the honor to meet, their 12-year-old twin sons, their 5-year-old son, who I heard just lost his first tooth the other day. The family's hurting, and I think our love and condolences will go a long way in helping them be supported at this very sad time. Majeka's colleagues at the Baruch Institute are listening to our plenary this morning, hurting for the loss of their dear colleague, when the former director of Baruch emailed the society leadership and asked if they could listen in on our streaming link. He commented that Majeka had so many ideas and said, I guess we all get to implement the best of them in his honor. And so I think you can see how much Majeka inspired all of us, and I hope that you had the opportunity to meet him, but us all engaging in the work that we need to do for just a vibrant, inclusive society would be an honor to Majeka. The family also wanted me to share that his celebration of life will be held at the Baruch Institute in Georgetown, South Carolina on June 22nd at 10 a.m., and that all are welcome. So I thank you so much for your engagement. Again, we talk about the things that we know about. Our dream here on the stage, and we know that there's many of you who are doing work to create more affirming, inclusive environments, and just to be empowered to make the impact that you can possibly have, join arms with other people, and really do our best work, because freshwater resources and communities really need us to do that. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation and summary of what the eMERGE program is doing. I had no idea the scope of it, and it is really inspiring. And I wanted to find out, what can the rest of us do to support this NSF proposal?
Be excited about it. Be excited about the eMERGE Fellows and the InSTARS Fellows and the Doris Duke Fellows that are here at this meeting. Introduce yourself. We try to have stickers on our things. I think as it comes to taking care of the environment, the first step is to care. And the first step is just to meet someone and talk about it, and then talk to the next person. And you'll probably be running a workshop and inviting all of these fellows to it sometime soon.
And then I
but our emails are, you know, hopefully everywhere and easy to find.
And then with can you hear me? Okay, the BioLeaps programs have mentoring programs. So there's a lot of mentoring opportunities in different levels of your career. So if you're a leader, early career, or a student, there will be opportunities for leadership training and engagement throughout the society.
And then very much at the ground level too, if this next round of funding comes through, you know, even at the $2 million grant level, the budget's we're not going to be able to reproduce things exactly as they happen. You know, we can't fund every student to come to the meeting and pay the registration and stuff. So one thing that everybody could potentially help out with, you know, is be really conscious and deliberate about whatever means that we can put together to actually help generate funding for the students that want to come be part of it. But probably more important than that is just, I suspect that if the grant hits, we start this kind of new big camp shared experience thing at the annual meeting, it will probably not like catch on like wildfire in the first year or maybe the second year. People are going to say like, what exactly is this? You know, why do I want my students to be a part of this group as opposed to sort of coming as traditionally just like with my lab or something. I suspect we're going to need actually really strong word of mouth to get through the society to make people realize that actually, you know, we're not taking the students away from the science. They're going to be at all the talks, and that is the main thing we spend most of the day doing, but there's just so much additional sort of team building and friendship that goes on between the scenes.
If I may, as well, we've been asked, the leadership has been asked to provide a letter of support for the proposal that goes in. I think the board is very much in support of that. Just once we have a strong clarity in what is needed from the society in that proposal. And Dan, you hit a great point there. Continue to look at how we're communicating with you all about fundraising and donations, if you're so inclined. There are ways to support the society's ability to support these sorts of initiatives. So stay tuned there for future changes to how we solicit your help in that regard. Other questions?
So I talked a little bit. Earlier about the Headwaters program, right, and how we're sort of trying to build that out over the last couple of years. And you know, you guys all touched on these really big, awesome, and I think successful initiatives in the society. And what we're seeing is the product of a lot of hard work. And I was just wondering if you guys could touch a little bit on, you know, for somebody like me who's trying to start something, right? Or somebody like the Emerge Fellows who are trying to get involved in the society in a meaningful way and interested in, you know, building something like what you all, the things that you all have touched on today, right? Could you all just touch on a little bit, you know, how you found the motivation and the energy and the support within the society to get these things going?
Thank you, Jonathan. I guess I could think about this in two ways. For me, I was incredibly stubborn, but also incredibly persistent. And the support of the leadership allowed me to be persistent, and I think we all want to encourage that, right? That if you really have that shared value or something that is meaningful to you, like this mission has been for all of us. I mean, I could have never imagined the amount of support. And at times, you know, financial, yes, that was great, but the amount of support that was beyond financial that the society gave us probably allowed us to keep going. And we've experienced quite a bit. You know, you've been at this for enough time. You get to experience happy times and at times, you know, bumps in the road and loss, but being incredibly persistent. And I'm trying to think how Nick Almond, he helped me phrase this just earlier, right? It was more than just the persistence amount. It's like really just just say it again, Nick? Relentless, that's right. Relentless at doing this. And believe it or I mean, people here in this society will really, they'll support you. And that's why this has been a home for this for me, and I know it'll continue to be one.
Okay, we've reached the 10 o'clock. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yes,
That's all right.
please.
Hopefully everyone can hear me. I think another aspect of this is just having a growth mindset. I think we've come a long way over the last decade, more so. But there's still a long way to go in that we're all learning how to be as inclusive as possible. So I think the society, what people can do is just have that growth mindset, that there are ways in which we need to expand our vision of what we want our society to look like in the next decade, the next 20 years. Thank you. Sorry, Dave.
All right. Well, thank you all for coming out this morning. Thank our panelists for sharing this important work with us. Enjoy the rest of the day, and yes, have fun.